The 2019 iPhones are actually they're pretty good to be honest. So the cameras on these things is just incredible. The battery life has been significantly improved from last year, especially on the iPhone 11 Pro and the Pro Max when compared to the XS and the XS Max from last year. But yeah, other than that, these phones are indeed quite boring. They have the same design on the front at least as in 2018 with the XS and 2017 with the iPhone X. They still have that massive notch in 2019 where basically every other smartphone company is now moving towards a full screen display with no interruptions or cutouts at all. And then even with the regular iPhone 11, which is by the way a very good iPhone for the price, $700, it still lacks a lot of the features when compared to other Android phones. Like the display is still an LCD display, it's not even a 1080p panel, the bezels are still very thick, there is no USB Type-C on any of the iPhones, not even on the Pro ones. Oh, and they all have USB 2.0, which basically means that if you're a pro photographer and you just bought a pro iPhone and you want to transfer some photos from your DSLR camera to your iPhone, the transfer speeds are going to be horrendously slow. So yeah, the 2019 iPhones are a bit boring. I know it's just been a few weeks since the iPhone 11s came out, but we already have a lot of leaks on the 2020 iPhones, which are going to be huge in every single way. So here's everything we know about the 2020 iPhones so far. So grab some snacks and enjoy. To keep your Mac running fast and secure, check out Intego's Premium Bundle X9 that includes a number of very useful tools for your Mac. Use the link below to get a 60% discount. Okay, so 2020 iPhones. Well, Ming-Chi Kuo, who's been the most reliable source when it comes to Apple leaks so far, released a brand new report on the 26th of September covering Apple's plans for the 2020 iPhones. And apparently these would indeed be a pretty big departure from the 2019 models. So we're still getting 3 models just like in 2018 and 2019, but the display sizes will actually change. The smallest 5.8-inch model, so the iPhone 11 Pro that we have now, this one will come with a smaller 5.4-inch display to make it easier or even easier to use in one hand. Then the 6.1-inch iPhone, so the standard iPhone 12 that we have now, this one will keep the same display, the 6.1-inch panel, and then finally the big 6.5-inch iPhone 11 Pro Max, this one will be getting an upgrade to a 6.7-inch panel with the iPhone 12 Pro Max. So the biggest iPhone is getting bigger, while the smallest iPhone is getting smaller. Now, aside from just the display size changes, all the 2020 iPhones will have an OLED display. Yes, finally, no more LCD panel on the iPhone 12. All models will now have OLED, just like they should. And Ming-Chi Kuo did say that Apple will be releasing a new design with these iPhones. He hasn't really said if this means that we will have no notch at all, but that is quite a likely scenario. So the way Apple designs their products is that they keep a design for a few years and they just update the specs afterwards for the next 2 to 4 years or so, after which they do release a brand new design. And then when a new design is indeed released, that is usually quite innovative and unlike anything we've seen on the market. So a good example of that would be the 2012 Retina MacBook Pros, those really thin ones with the first Retina display, high resolution display on any laptop, then the original MacBook Air, the first iPhone, the iPhone 4, the iPhone 10, they all had unique and innovative designs and features when they came out. But since Apple kept those designs for a few years, they became outdated towards the end of their life cycle. So the 2020 iPhones will have, or should have, an innovative design, at least judging by Apple's past design choices, and in this case, I don't really think they would have a notch or any display cutout at all. And Ben Gaskin also posted an exclusive render of one of the 2020 iPhone prototypes, which has a 6.7-inch display. Same as Ming-Chi Kuo predicted, and this one has Face ID camera, so the Face ID camera system embedded into the top bezel. Now, there is a bit of a problem with this. So Apple actually uses something called 2.5D glass on the iPhones, where the edges of the glass are slightly curved on all sides. This is so that you can easily drag your fingers from the frame onto the display, so it facilitates gestures such as swiping right to go back. But if Apple ends up going with the Face ID sensors inside the actual frame, then they will have to remove the 2.5D glass because the reflection will be horrible on that thing and they wouldn't be able to use the cameras and the sensors, so they will have to stick to straight glass instead. Now, Ming-Chi Kuo also released another report last week in which he said that the 2020 iPhones will change their design significantly. He did say that the new iPhones will feature a brand new metal frame, similar to the iPhone 4, which is quite interesting, with a more complex segmentation design though. Now, interesting enough, Ming-Chi Kuo did say that Apple will actually be using, or still using, 2.5D glass, which pretty much contradicts the Face ID embedded into the bezel design. So we've had a bit of thinking as to how could Apple actually do all of this, and we've made our own render in quite what we believe to be a realistic manner. And this is how our concept looks like. There we go. This is the Zonata concept of the 2020 iPhones. So essentially what we've done here is that on the iPhone 11 Pro and the Pro Max, we measured the width of the front camera module, which is, by the way, the biggest part or the thickest part of the Face ID camera system. And that one was about 2 millimeters in width. We've then added an extra millimeter to accommodate for the frame that holds the entire Face ID system, and then we use that 3mm bezel all around the phone. Now, this one is a bit thicker than the 2 to 2.5mm bezel that we have currently on the iPhone 11 Pro and the Pro Max. However, at least it is a realistic representation as to how it would look like if Apple were to use this Face ID system embedded into the bezel. Yeah, realistically, the frame couldn't be any thinner than 3mm unless Apple uses a smaller camera module on the front. The front-facing camera is the main issue here, like I said before, and I don't see Apple downgrading from the quality that we had on the iPhone 11s just for a thinner bezel. But I still think that this looks pretty good, especially on a massive 6.7-inch display like the iPhone 12 Pro Max is supposed to have. Okay, next up we have the frame. So the way we've envisioned this is the following. I don't really see Apple having the exact same frame that the iPhone 4 had. I think what Michiko was referring to was a squared off frame, but not necessarily the iPhone 4 style frame. So we actually modeled ours based on the iPad Pro 2018's frame, since that's the most recent Apple product, or at least, iOS product that has a squared off frame. Now, the iPad Pro does have an aluminum frame. However, on the iPhone 12 Pros, this would be a stainless steel frame. We've also rounded the edges a bit to have those transitions better onto the display from the actual frame. So yeah, there we go. This is how we envision the iPhone 12 Pros to look like. Now, something else that the new iPhone 12s are supposed to come with is finally a true depth sensing camera on the back. Pretty much the same thing that we have at the moment on the Samsung Galaxy Note 10 Plus, and also the same thing, by the way, that we have on the iPhone 10 and newer on the front. Yes, the Face ID camera system is a true depth sensing camera as well. So this will not only improve portrait mode significantly, but it will also have a huge benefit on AR. Now, we were actually thinking of ways of having the system, the AR camera system, the true depth sensing cameras, on the iPhone 12s. And I think that the best way that Apple could do this is by having a fourth camera module in that camera square, and that module would have two mini modules inside. So the infrared transmitter and infrared receiver, both of which would be required for the depth sensing capabilities. Essentially, the way this works is that the infrared transmitter sends out infrared rays, and the infrared receiver captures those rays back, and based on the angle, the number, and the time it took for those rays to be reflected back, you can calculate the distance from the phone to an object, and therefore you can map that object in 3D space. So yeah, this is really cool, and you can use this on the Galaxy Note 10 Plus to capture objects in 3D, which is pretty amazing. And you can, by the way, do the same thing with the iPhone 10's front-facing camera. So the iPhone 12 Pros are looking like a pretty big change. A full-screen display with no notch or camera cutouts, a new squared-off stainless steel frame, that quad camera module with time-of-flight sensors, and also we've redesigned the mute button to an iPad-like style that was actually rumored to be included with the iPhone 11s, but yeah, it never was, so there we go. Okay, so the 12 Pros are looking pretty awesome, but what about a standard iPhone 12, the non-Pro iPhone? Well, since this will be getting an OLED display, I do see Apple making some changes to make this iPhone look cheaper and less pro than the other ones. So yeah, I don't see them making the bezels thicker, but I wouldn't be surprised if Apple ends up keeping the notch on this iPhone and only have the Pros as the true bezel-less models. The frame of the phone would still have the squared up design, the only difference being that it would be made out of aluminum or aluminium, depending on where you're from, rather than stainless steel. Now, taking a look at the back, the camera module is very likely to remain the same as on the iPhone 11. So a dual camera module rather than the triple one or even the quad one that we'll be very likely getting with the iPhone 12 Pros. We actually redesigned the camera module, by the way, on the 12 to, just make it look better than how it currently is on the iPhone 11. So let us know in the comments down below, what do you think of our design of the iPhone 12? And to be honest, if Apple does indeed keep the same price and just adds an OLED display to the base iPhone 12, it would actually be a pretty good deal. Great cameras, unfortunately still an outdated 3-year-old design on the front, but at least it won't be as bad as having an LCD display with even thicker bezels. So yeah, I would love to hear your thoughts on the iPhone 12, if you think the iPhone 12, the regular one, will be worth it for $700 in your opinion. Now, another big new feature coming to the new iPhones is 5G support. So Michiko did talk about this in his report as well, and according to him, the iPhone 12 would not be getting 5G, however, the iPhone 12 Pros will, so the 5.4 and the 6.7-inch models. This will be a Qualcomm 5G modem. Apple has settled their dispute with Qualcomm, by the way, and they've also purchased Intel's 5G modem division. So Apple is actively working on their own 5G modem. However, this won't be ready until, quite late, so to say. So definitely won't be ready by 2020. Michiko does say that Apple will have these ready by 2022 or even just 2023, while some other reports even claim that Apple will only have this ready by 2025. Then another big new feature is said to be a high refresh rate display. So Apple has already had this on the iPad Pros with the ProMotion technology, where the refresh rate can go from 60 Hz up to 120 Hz or even down to 24 Hz depending on the content that you're watching. And that 120 Hz display is just amazing on the Pros. It's crazy fluid and smooth. It just makes the entire iPad Pro feel even faster than it already is. And some other smartphone manufacturers such as Razer, Asus, and OnePlus already have high refresh rate displays, 90 and 120 Hz, and then the Google Pixel 4 is also set to come with a 90 Hz refresh rate display. Apple has also added a variable refresh rate display to the Apple Watch Series 5 as well, where it can go from 60 Hz down to 1 Hz for that always-on display. So yeah, a variable refresh rate display on the 2020 iPhone Pros at least is looking extremely likely at this point. Ice Universe even tweeted about this back in July, that Apple is considering a variable refresh rate display that can go up to 120 Hz and is currently in talks with Samsung and LG about these because, Samsung and LG's, they actually manufacture the displays for Apple. This will be an amazing thing to have since it will make the iPhone's Pro display not just more responsive and, it will make the iPhone feel faster, but it would also help differentiate the Pro models from the regular iPhone 12 model. I just hope, I really hope, guys, that we do get to see an always-on display on the new iPhone, because honestly, this is one of my favorite features ever on a smartphone, and lots of Android phones have been having this for, have had this for many years now, and it's just amazing. Being able to see the time and your notifications on the display all the time is way more useful than you think, and once you've had and used an always-on display, you cannot really go back. Now, something that I'm really curious about is to see how Apple will end up implementing Face ID. We've actually had many reports and even patents from Apple showing a full-screen Touch ID system on a future iPhone, and this is really cool. Being able to press on the display anywhere and basically unlock the phone, that's awesome. So we know that Apple wants to bring Touch ID back at some point. Bloomberg and Ming Chi Kuo both said that Apple plans on using both Face ID and Touch ID in a future iPhone for faster and also a more convenient unlock. Being able to use whichever to unlock the phone, that would be perfect. Kuo only believes that this will happen in 2021, while Bloomberg believes that this could happen in 2020 as well. So we could also have, 3 full-screen iPhones in 2020 in that case. Just that the iPhone 12 will have that full-screen Touch ID, while the Pros will have both Face ID and Touch ID working together. So yeah, that's a possibility as well. So this is everything that we know so far about the 2020 iPhones. Let me know in the comments what you guys think about, the 2020 iPhones, and why not the 2019 if you got one, and if you'll upgrade next year as well. And definitely subscribe notifications if you want to see more Leaks and Rumors episodes like this one and more in-depth tech videos like this one, hopefully was. And also check out our website, zenofTech.com/articles, for written articles of our videos and more. So that's pretty cool. That's something we launched recently. Check it out. You can even leave comments on the website and let us know what you think. So yeah, thank you for watching. I'm Daniel, and I'll see you guys in the next one. ZenofTech, signing out. Cheers.